And once again, I would say hello to you on this wonderful day. It is a wonderful day because we look not at the appearance, but we realize that God is asking us to live in the presence. Presence, to live disregarding that which our senses behold, not being ignorant and not just acting like they don't exist, but not accepting consequential evidence from what may be brought to us. For it is he who made all things, and because he has made all things, he has made nothing detrimental to us. Today is March 15, 2023, and this is recording 493. It's entitled Living as the Son. Living as the Son. Now, last week our lesson was returning home with our identity intact. Now, one thing we need to understand about returning home with our identity, and this lesson was based on the prodigal going home and going home as a servant. He was willing to change his identity just to get back into the Father's good graces, and yet the Father still perceived him as he was prior to leaving. So the one thing that we need to understand is that our identity is intact. We only have to overcome what we believe has happened, or what we believe we've been told has happened, or what we believe we must overcome to get. There is nothing to overcome. When I see this in its immaculate inner vision, I see myself just literally without any limitations. Why? Because the Father, that's what he tells me. And yet there is something, as Paul talked about this law, there is something that tries its best to keep me from stepping forward for fear that I might do something. And usually something that I do would cause God to send some type of reprimand, some type of punishment toward me. So therefore I hold back. And in a sense, what I'm doing is I'm asking God to prove himself that I might step forward, when in actuality it's just the other way around. The scriptures tell us that where there is no open revelation, the people perish. And you don't even have to ask. You can look out anywhere in this world right now and see that there is no open revelation of God. There are those who are quoting scriptures. There are those who are memorizing scripture. There are those that are doing things that they believe to be helpful. Humanitarianism. They're giving. They're doing all kinds of things. But just as I was just scanning Facebook today, one of my friends put on there it was a joke. But the joke was this little girl was crying, and he was asking her why was she crying, and she said, because my daddy called me a Democrat. And everybody's laughing. And when I saw that, I went, Now these people actually believe that they're going to heaven, but they believe Democrats. And then when you flip it over, Democrats are saying the same thing. They believe Republicans and whoever. They think that they got it made and that they can do whatever, and they never stop to think about their friends who may be Republican or Democrat. And when you ask them, they'll say something as odd as, I'm just talking about the people in government. But you see, God is trying his best to give us individually an open revelation. And what is that revelation? I am that I am. I am neither Democrat nor Republican nor independent nor whatever. I am that I am. Therefore, that is my identity, and my identity is to take me home intact. What do I mean intact? A lot of times, what are we saying? I'm going to go to heaven, but I'm not quite sure what my grade is going to be for me to get in. That's not your identity intact. Because if you'll look at how God looked at the prodigal, he said what? This is my son. He didn't say F. No, I couldn't have said F. He didn't say D minus, C, B, A, or A plus. He simply said, this is my son, which meant he recognized him as that which was pleasing in his sight. And therefore, the son has returned, and he's returned home with his identity intact. What would be the value to you of living without a care? Yeah, I felt that too. You see, that's what Neville talks about when he says, see yourself already at the end, see yourself attained. When that little wave that just rushed through your consciousness, that's what he's talking about when he says, see the end, living without a care. Now, that doesn't mean that you've got all of these riches and all this gold and all these fabulous things all around you. It simply means that your consciousness is not bogged down with concern of whatever. To have every desire fulfilled, I'm not talking about simply just going out here and just getting. What I'm saying is, what would it be like to get up every day like that little child that gets up in the morning and comes rushing and jumps in the bed, or and all they want to do is play, and all they want to do is get in the sandbox, and their memory of things negative doesn't last long because they always believe. Look at little children. They always believe something good is right around the corner. To have every desire fulfilled. To have no fears. I'm not concerned about a yearly checkup. I'm not concerned about a pain in the elbow. I'm not concerned about the taxes being raised. I'm not concerned about people forcing me. Like I told a man the other day, I said, I want to feel good about spending money. I want to feel real good about spending money, not just on the things that I desire, but also spending money on the things that I don't desire, like car repairs and plumbing issues and air conditioning. After all, God is he who pays, but he can only pay when we come to the understanding of our identity. To simply live a satisfying life and then mature out into something even more gratifying. Wow. Would this be something that would be of an important interest to you? Yep. As I said a while ago, for a moment, I actually believe that I had you on the edge of acceptance. But then, as is always the case, your remembrance of past experiences and future negative expectations put you back to sleep. Yep, put you back in the land of Nod with Cain. Was it not Isaiah that said, awake, thou that sleeps, and Christ will give you light? That's a command. That's a promise. He said, if you awaken, Christ will lead you on. Why do we have such a big problem with trying to wake up? People are telling us to claim stuff and to say it 100 times or no. Wake up. How do you wake up? You wake up to the truth. You wake up to sitting and contemplating your identity. That's how you wake up. Who in their right mind would not embrace a life of no concerns, the life that was described above? Who would not? Look again at what's been promised. Are not the promises that are in your holy scriptures, have they not been executed by others and then written down that you may be assured that your path is sure? Why the big battle? Why? Every day, why is it such a large battle? Is it that we're trying to get God to prove himself first so that we can walk in? And yet that nullifies the promises, because he says my promises are true. To all that seriously embrace the inner meaning, it is stated that all things will be found in that person's possession. I know my brother consistently quotes Psalm 112. Wealth and riches shall be in his house. Whose house? The house is your conscience. It's not that four-walled A-frame roof. Although it will, what's the word I want? Translate as that. But the consciousness is the house. That's why God says, who will build me a house that I can live in? He's talking about your conscience. He's not talking about what the three pigs did. He's not talking about wood, hay, and stubble and whatever the other one was, the other two. He's talking about the third one. He's talking about the third one, the one that was built by brick. But that's a mystical story. It's telling us to build a consciousness that cannot be overcome by the wolves of life. You see, the only thing that hampers and limits us is our teaching, or I should say, lack thereof. We have been so mistaught and so hypnotized to believe that everything we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell causes us to say, I'm from Missouri. You got to show me. When Jesus said, look not at the things which are seen. If I am not to look at the things which are seen, what am I supposed to be doing in the meantime? Contemplating the love that God has for me. Yeah, but I might be. Yeah, that's right. You're exactly right. You might be overtaken. But the bottom line is, does that negate what he told you to do? I remember one time when somebody close to me had to go to trial, and we had convinced our defense attorney, that the person wasn't guilty and that they had paid all of the things that need to happen. And he says, okay, I'm going to enter a plea of not guilty. So when they ask you, then you say not guilty. We said, okay. And we get there, and when they walked in, they said, a plea bargain has already been entered on your behalf, and you are accepting the guilty plea. And I'm like, what? You see, how can you trust a God that will not stand behind what he has told you to do? Looks like onus is on our shoulder, because he's asking us to live as his son, and he has given us all things that pertain to life and godliness. How does it make you feel to even think that God might not come through? Wow. Something to think about, isn't it? Last week, we were made aware of a realization within that would usher us into a communing relationship with all that is good. Just listen to what I just said. A communing relationship with all that is good, simply by maintaining our identity. How do I maintain my identity? The same way I maintain it in this physical world. I am so-and-so. I live at such and such. I drive a so-and-so. I am so tall, so much weight, whatever the case may be. I am the son, the immediate display of the living God, of the image of the living God. That's how I maintain my communion. It is this realization that satisfies all seeking and guarantees us that from the point of that revelation, we will never go without every or any satisfying object that was described or promised and executed in our holy book. Seems like it just literally comes down to do I believe the witness accounts of the Holy Scriptures. Because if I do, I'm going to put myself through whatever inconvenient situation and condition to prove. And the only person I can prove this to is myself. It is by keeping sacred above all else the realization of a kingdom within that will bring to outward display all that satisfies. Keeping within myself, sacred and secret, that which I am contemplating. Just this morning, one of my friends in Florida sent me a message, and it was a question. And the question was, do you believe that Jesus is Lord, or was he a teacher that came into the sonship, the truth qualities? And I said both. But the man, Jesus, was not Lord, although he was because of his conscience. How do you explain that to someone? You don't. You just find the understanding that the Word of God is Lord. There is a spirit from heaven, a spirit sent from heaven that inhabits every person that comes to the earth, every person. And the recognition of that spirit is Lord of all. Does that make me Lord? Yes, in a sense. But I am not to be worshipped. For I have put off this outer man. But I am also established a house that God can dwell in and be at ease. So this is what I keep sacred and secret to myself, and I allow that which is within me, the Spirit of Christ, to express the promises that are and the witness accounts that were expressed in the holy city. I need not go out and tell people I am that I am the living God, I am the Son of God, because you know they are not going to accept it. But if we maintain this identity, see, we are returning home with our identity intact. Home is not someplace outward. Home is an inward understanding that nothing shall by any means hurt or harm me. to display the satisfaction of this life, you would think that it would first show up in your garage, in your driveway, your living room, in your bedroom, in your closet, in your kitchen, in your swimming pool, whatever the case may be, in your grass. But no. Ironically, guess where the first proof shows up? It shows up in your countenance. It shows up on your face. It shows up in your consciousness. It shows up as confidence without you even speaking a word. My friend asked me, how do you respond when people start giving all these different accounts about Jesus, whatnot? I said, I simply ignore what they're saying. I don't try to tell them they're wrong. I just ignore what they're saying, much like the little kid that's shocked out of his gourd that the devil is under his bed. And there's nothing you can do to prove to that kid that there is no devil under the bed or hiding in the closet or in the darkness shadows. You say, yeah, but you could take him there and show him. That's right. And when you pull up under the bed and you open up the closet, whatnot, that kid is going to say what? Oh, he's just hiding. He's not here right now. But he's there when you're not around. So we ignore what is not the truth while we contemplate what is the truth. We're living. We're living as the Son. But it's the Father that doeth the works. First, our personality is going to express its contentment. Then the cup of our contentment will spill over with every expected promise. One way of looking at that is someone other than you is going to notice life changing for you. That's it spilling over. It doesn't necessarily spill over on them because they have to accept it. But the scriptures tell us, and there shall be a highway to the heavens, to the Holy Land, and even a fool shall not err therein. You see, once you have secured your path, then trust me, others are going to somehow find a way into your life because they are seeking the same thing. This person will now realize that they have entered the Sabbath, the rest of God, free from concern, free from earthly concerns. This one is free not only to enjoy life, but to help others that seek the same freedom. Heaven found while still on the earth. Wow. Who would not enjoy that? A kingdom within that awaits to be discovered and to bring to pass all the desires of the heart. Who would not enjoy that? Remember, Jesus said, thy will be done on earth as it already is in heaven. Daily supplied. We don't have to go out and pick the manna. The manna is brought to us. It's brought to us through a blessed assurance. Remember that song, Jesus is mine? Oh, what a foretaste. Isn't it amazing how we sing songs like that? And then are at each other's throat before we can get out the church doors? Thy will be done on earth as it already is. That means that the recognition of who you are, the Son of God, is not something that God has to do. God will make a way. No, that's not true. Doesn't matter what we get in, the Lord will make a way somehow. Come on. He says, thy will be done in earth as it is already established in the heavens. Daily will I supply, because my love for you is unerring, says God. And when your love for me becomes unerring, even with its little flaws, see, he's looking at your heart. Even with the flaws, as you seek after God, he's saying, you are now recognizing what I have placed in you before the foundation of the world. I think you're beginning to see how important recognition of your identity is, as opposed to trying to get God to do something. He's saying that once you understand who you are, there's no need to ever ask him for anything. Now recognized as the visible image of that, that has brought all things into being, we now live as the Son of all that is. You need to get that one. When we recognize ourselves as the visible image of that which has brought all things into expression, we now live as the visible expression of all that is. The Father, or the creative substance being identified, now reveals its greatness, its greatness, its greatness. For greater is he that is within them, that rather than those out. Think about that. Where can I reach in that Bible and pull up a scripture that does not nullify any negative situation, and yet we still fear for our lives? How can that be? Are we spending enough time contemplating the greatness, the greater one that lives within us? Greater is he that lives within you than he that's in the world. For it is the Father's great pleasure to commune with and to honor the Son. Wow. It's his pleasure to talk to us. And yet we find people constantly saying, what? I don't never hear him. He don't never say nothing to me. Well, I beg to differ. I think he's speaking. But because he speaks, and when he speaks, we throw up a limiting yeah, but, and we call it a thought and pass it off, saying, God, if you just show me something, then I can follow you. And he's saying, follow because I am. When you look out at this world and you realize there is no safe place, there is no way off this thing, there is no way to solidify or assure your future, what choice do you have but to return home with your identity as tact, living as the Son of God, the image and likeness of all that is. And you didn't have to go anywhere to do it. Wow. Didn't have to put on a change of clothes. Didn't have to tell anybody. You just begin to live in a conscious awareness that who you are cannot be taken from you. What's necessary? To believe that I am he that was sent to save and to enjoy the satisfaction of living as the Son. God bless.